So hello and welcome to our Systems Learning Exchange discussion today with Dora Chaudhuri from Splash in India. Firstly, can you tell us a little bit about your role and background, please?
Yes, thanks, Tracy. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank Agenda for Change for allowing Splash this platform. To talk about myself, this is my 7th year with Splash, and currently I am their senior advisor with the organization, providing strategic and programmatic inputs for its work in both India and Nepal. This is my 23rd year in the development sector. And while I always have considered myself as a development practitioner, in the last 8 years, I kind of have become a sort of a wash and schools promoter, I believe.
Great, thank you. Please, could you tell us a little bit more about ProjectWise and your work with the government?
Sure, yeah. So I think project-wise, it's one of Splash's most ambitious program, which is looking at delivering comprehensive water, sanitation, hygiene, and strengthened menstrual hygiene management services across approximately 1,200 government schools in Kolkata. And this is expected to benefit about 380,000 children. Um, a similar program is underway in Addis Ababa, and the goals and intervention model is very similar that of intervening in government schools in Addis Ababa. The key component of this program design is engagement with school stakeholders. The program is being delivered in collaboration with the Education Department of the state government. During the initial phase of this program, the government stakeholders were involved in the development of the training module that is a key component of the behavior change program under ProjectWise. The project is very well appreciated and acknowledged for its contribution in ensuring greater adherence to the Right to Education Act, as better wash facilities is a right for children according to the Act. As the project is being scaled, obviously the need is for greater contribution from the government, and this is something that we are seeking at the moment, wherein the expectation is a co-funding from the government for this project.
I imagine that the context has changed quite significantly for the State Education Department recently. Do you think they will still co-fund and scale the project as planned? Does the Education Department still regard school wash as a priority, given everything else that's currently going on?
Of course, priorities are shifting, especially there is a state election that is due sometime mid next year in 2021. As you know, Cyclone Amphan had devastating effects in West Bengal, and the city of Kolkata also was badly impacted. And of course, COVID-19 pandemic has changed the narrative of the program pitch for sure. While the pandemic makes project-wise intervention even more relevant than it was earlier, the government is currently pretty challenged, especially the government machinery is now focusing more on addressing the larger challenges around poor health infrastructure, unemployment, and post-cyclone recovery and rehabilitation of both infrastructure and livelihood of the population. The state education department is also having to put in place systems and processes to ensure a staggered school reopening, as schools have been closed since mid-March. In Kolkata, the government schools have a specific challenge, which is due to real estate constraints, and they do not have the infrastructure to allow social distancing. Like, you know, these are really small classrooms with up to 80, 90 students in one space, which is kind of, you can imagine, very difficult to then manage social distancing. So this is a challenge that they have. Midday meal is a key element of the school education system. And before the pandemic, meals were like cooked meals were served in schools. This is now in question in many schools. Like, you know, they don't have the infrastructure for ensuring safe distribution of food and no option for adequate hand washing. Having said that, we see hope and believe that the government will come forward with funds to support WASH initiative, given the importance of it post-COVID, like, you know, that is there in their minds also.
Mm-hmm. And so from your perspective, what is Splash able to do to respond to this challenging context?
One is like, obviously this is us having to look at our entire program model with a different lens altogether. So a key program element of Project Wise was a training module, which we are using, which was a training of trainers, followed by facilitated trainings of school-wise student groups.
Mhm.
This design obviously will now need to change due to COVID and its enforced social distancing norms. Splash is now revisiting not only the training module, but its entire behavior change program model to identify innovative means of delivering the critical messages around hand washing behavior and menstrual health management. And one of the platforms we are really exploring is digital platforms. The program team is also exploring design changes to existing hand washing and drinking water as well as sanitation hardware that we were using in the past, to be able to address the standard operating procedures that are being released by the government and international collectives in relation to schools and other institutions once they reopen after months of lockdown.
You mentioned that you'll focus more on using digital platforms to deliver the training and the behavior change messages for hand washing and menstrual hygiene management. So what kinds of tools and platforms are you considering for that? Do the student groups have access already, or are there some that don't have access? And if so, how might you be able to reach them?
This is a brilliant question, Tracy. Yeah, you have rightly pointed out. The challenge in India has been that many of the government school attending students do not have access to computers and internet at home. For them, we are looking at more traditional digital media like television and radio. One of the things we have found is that FM channels are quite popular, and so is cable TV. So, those are the platforms that we could look at, especially for the younger audience. We have, however, noted that girls attending 8th and 9th grades onwards have access to mobile phone. They may not have their own, but, could be one that belongs to their parents or their older siblings. So the menstrual health related infographics that we are currently exploring will probably be delivered through mobile based platforms like WhatsApp and Facebook. We also see this as an opportunity wherein, like, while the training module was developed in collaboration with a particular department within the school education department of the state, we are now looking at exploring how the government pedagogy and the curriculum delivery will evolve. Like, we want to see this, and then in keeping with the needs for the new norm post COVID. And we would like to really collaborate with the department in repackaging some of these contents in relation to hygiene behavior that can not only be used in the city of Kolkata, but across the state, because it's going to be in the same language really. So that's something that we are also looking at exploring in the coming months. So involving the government from the get-go is going to be a requirement, and we are going to do so for sure.
You mentioned that you're going to adapt hardware designs to the government's and other stakeholders' new standard and operating procedures. What types of changes might be required, and how will you be able to quickly assess if those changes will still result in sustainable, resilient wash in schools, services and facilities?
Again, a very good question. I think the first challenge is going to be around social distancing. And when it comes to infrastructure, I think the next big challenge for the schools is how to ensure adequate hand washing or sanitizing facilities. We at Splash are already working on design tweaks to our existing hand washing stations to accommodate sanitizer dispensers and food pedals. Increase in hand washing with soap has been a major expected outcome of Project Wise, and now more than ever, this is an outcome everyone wants, really. Since the pandemic, we have seen an increased interest in our hand washing station from various NGOs and INGOs globally. And we have evolved from just producing stations for splash programs to now selling them to other development organizations. In some ways, this is the best way to measure if they are sustainable, as these other players won't keep buying our stations if they are not as good as we think they are, and well, if they aren't effective or resilient in nature. We do believe that there will be a need for the government to facilitate increased water supply, as schools have limitations around water availability, and with increased need for hand washing, the water needs will naturally rise. But at the same time, we are very hopeful, as there will be a need for collective effort to ensure that the schools are equipped to handle the new norm. It will not be an easy task, especially the real estate challenges, but we do think that increased awareness, tweaked infrastructure can help lower those risks.
So we really want to thank you again for sharing your experience with us today, and look forward to a further discussion with you on September the 2nd as part of our live event of the Systems Learning Exchange.
Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, this was brilliant, and I'm happy to answer any questions at a later stage. And once again, thank you to Agenda for Change for giving me this opportunity.